I had a thought the other day where I was looking back at my life and I was trying to figure out what were the pivotal moments that got me to the place I'm at today. And what really stood out to me were these extremely vivid memories I had of my 20s. At the time, I had no idea who I was or what I wanted to do with my life. Everything back then was so different than it is now. Life seemed a lot more simple, but at the same time, I still had these overwhelming emotions of feeling behind in life. Now, for context, currently I am 36 years old, so my years of being 20 are far behind me. However, I wanted to share some thoughts and perspectives and what I've learned from my 20s and also what I would do differently. So, hopefully, you can gain something of value from my past experiences that can help guide you through your upcoming journey in life. I heard a quote from The Rock once that said, in his 20s, he thought he had all the answers, but in reality, he knew nothing. Then, in his 30s, he was still trying to find himself like so many other people out there. But then, finally, in his 40s, is when he sort of started to succeed and he began to hit a really nice stride. His words were really encouraging for me because this made me realize it's okay to not have everything figured out in your 20s. And even right now, in my mid 30s, I still have these days where it feels like I'm behind and I'm struggling to catch up to the goals that I've set for myself. But once you accept the fact that it's okay to not be okay, then you can figure out what to work on in order to move forward. So if you're watching this video and you feel lost and you find yourself constantly behind all your friends and peers, know that this exact same situation happened to me around the time that I was 22. This was a point in my life where all my friends were graduating university and they began their careers in the corporate world. Now, this was a path that just simply wasn't for me. This trajectory of high school, college, get a degree, and then a full-time 9 to 5 job just wasn't in the cards for me. For whatever reason, I've always been extremely stubborn when it comes to societal norms. I just can't bring myself to do something just because everyone else is doing it. This is just not who I am. And for as long as I can remember, I've always had that entrepreneurial mind where I wanted to work for my dreams rather than working for someone else's dreams. However interesting that may sound, I do need to warn you that the life of the entrepreneur is a very lonely, stressful, and risky career to pursue at first. In the beginning, you just don't have that guaranteed salary or benefits to fall back on. So I completely understand why the vast majority of people gravitate towards the corporate 9 to 5 route. Because it's simple, it's safe, and even though it's not really guaranteed, there is still comfort in knowing that you have a reliable day job waiting for you at the end of the day. If the idea of 40 hours a week, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 scares you, then you're probably right, as there is nothing more that I fear in this world than being stuck at a dead-end job with work that I have no passion for or coworkers that I can't relate to. The important lesson to be learned here is that if you do end up with a job that you just hate, what you need to do is you need to quit and get out of there as soon as possible. Far too often I have made this mistake of hanging around for the sake of a paycheck. And this is a hard decision to make, especially in your 20s, where you're still trying to find yourself. But you are at an age where you need to experiment. Put yourself out there and try as many new things as possible. Because you never know when you'll come across a company that you really love working for. Or maybe you'll find a new hobby or skill that you wouldn't have tried in the past. And now you've found something that you're passionate about. I know that this advice is not the easiest to follow, but what really worked for me in my late 20s, and I wish I knew this sooner, was whatever you decide to do in life, do it with passion, do it with intensity, or just don't do it at all. It's this middle ground where you'll get stuck. You don't love what you do, but also you don't hate it. So you sort of just meander around without any direction or purpose. And it's horrible because this is the point where everyone else will pass you in life, leaving you behind. This became very apparent to me when I started going to the gym. That first year of working out, I literally made no progress. I'd go to the gym for an hour or two, maybe walk around on the treadmill, do some bicep curls, and then I'd try one of the leg press machines for a few sets and then call it a day. There was no direction, no goal or purpose to my workouts. I was just there for the sake of being there, and I kind of started to wonder, how come I'm not getting any stronger? How come my body looks the same? Eventually, I started to take my workout seriously, and I devised a whole new workout plan. This gave structure and purpose to my time in the gym. My 1 hour sessions 5 days a week became 45-minute sessions 3 days a week. But the second I entered the gym, I just immediately attacked the weights. I got after it. And I would repeat to myself, get in, go hard, get out. Get in, go hard, get out. And this was my mantra that I repeat to myself every time in my head, over and over and over. And what this did was, it taught me a very eye-opening lesson. Be intentional with your time. If you're going to do something, do it to the best of your ability. If you take the job, then do the job with pride. If you end up hating that same job, then give your 2 weeks notice in and get the hell out of there. There is nothing wrong with quitting something that brings you misery. Now, I can't really go any further without at least mentioning money or personal finance. When I was in my 20s, I didn't really know what money was, or rather what money was to me. Because as you get older, you will soon realize that money is not the same thing for everyone. On the surface, it just looks like a commodity we use to track and exchange value. However, it goes so much deeper than that. Even if you are in your teens or any age in your 20s, I encourage you to spend some time learning about money and personal finance. Find out how to invest or open a savings account. Try to buy a stock, a cryptocurrency, an NFT, or any tiny piece of something so that you can get accustomed to this idea of building your net worth. There's a really great quote from Einstein which sort of applies to this, and I'm sure that many of you have heard of it. It's, compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it. This is something that I was very fortunate enough to learn early in my teens, and I'm very thankful to this day that I did. Now, what happened was my father took me to this financial conference at a bank when I was like 16 or 17, something like that. And I remember feeling super confused and overwhelmed when they were talking about mutual funds, bonds, equities, and all this stuff about creating a plan for retirement. However, what I still remember to this day was the story they told me about the incredible power of compound interest. And it went something like this. If you're 20 years old and you invest $200 a month into something like the S&P 500, every single month until you're 30 years old, and then stop. So you're just investing for 10 years, and then once you hit 30, you don't invest any more money into the fund anymore, and you just let it incur compound interest. By the time you're 70 years old, that fund will have over $1 million in it. And hearing this as a 16-year-old, it completely blew my mind because in my head, the math just didn't add up. $200 a month is $2,400 per year. So if you invested that every single year in your 20s, that's like about $24,000. So how can $24,000 turn into $1 million? That's not tripling or quadrupling your money. It's increasing it by 40 times over, which sounds totally insane. Learning about this concept of compound interest was huge for me because it taught me a very important lesson when it came to personal finance and your time. As you grow up, you'll eventually realize this, but in your 20s, you will desire money to buy things you want. But in your 30s, you will desire money to buy things you need. And there is this clear distinctive difference here, where I'm at in life in my mid-30s. All of my money goes to property taxes, mortgage, food, insurance, diapers, baby formula, and like all this other crazy stuff that I need. But when you're younger and in your 20s, hopefully you don't have as many of these financial burdens as someone in their 30s. So you can at least try and save up a portion of that $200 and invest it the best you can. Now, of course, you're never going to be able to invest $200 a month unless you have a decent income. And again, this is something that's not very popular to say, but this is something I believe and I think it has to be said. Do whatever you need to do to get that money. Of course, don't do anything stupid like steal, scam, or hurt people. But just make sure you're working hard in a legitimate way and just get your money. That could mean getting a part-time job, picking up extra shifts on the weekend, or starting a business on the side. Whatever it is, make sure that personal finance is high on your list of priorities. Unfortunately, people are going to give you terrible advice like there's more to life than making money. Well, yeah, of course there is, but at the same time, I always try to remind those people that there's more to life than being broke. The reason why I always encourage younger people to become financially savvy is because if you're feeling lost or behind in life, where currently you don't know what you want to do in this world, then this is even more of a reason why you need to save now. Because take myself, for example, it took me over 30 years to figure out what my purpose was in life, which was such a difficult road up until this point. However, on the bright side, because I was financially responsible in my 20s, by the time I figured out what I wanted to do in this world, I didn't have any student loans, I had no credit card debt, no car payments, or no overdue bills. There was just none of that. So what it did was it gave me the financial flexibility to pursue my newfound passion for videography and filmmaking. I was able to go out and buy a camera, buy some lenses, a microphone, lights, and all these things that ignite my love and passion for content creation and storytelling. And if I didn't have that financial flexibility, I wouldn't have been able to pursue that. So if you are still feeling behind in life, I have one last piece of advice to give you. Try not to get caught up in this whole comparing yourself to others thing. I know it's hard, it will be difficult to see your friends and everyone else around you who are achieving more than you. But if you can, try to use that as fuel to motivate yourself to be better. Just know that we are all on different paths in life. If you need to delete social media in order to get away from it all, then do it. Or if you need to save up money by stop going to the bar or to parties with your friends, then do that too. Do whatever you need to do in order to get your life in order. And I know it's not going to be easy, as my 20s were a very confusing and underwhelming time in my life. It took me a really long time before I began to start to figure things out. But at the end of the day, the only comparison you ever need to make is, are you better than the person you were yesterday? And if the answer to that question is yes, then you're one step closer to being ahead in life rather than behind. Thanks for watching.